Hey everybody, there's a fan with too much time here, coming at you with another After Talk, and today I've got a rant/review to lay on you guys. As you may already be able to kind of feel from my energy, from the tone I've got going on, that it's not the best thing. It's not something I even want to talk about, but I definitely have to talk about it. So, The Mandalorian episode 7 just came out, and I've been holding back from making a whole lot of public comments about it up until now, waiting to see what's going to go on, what's going to happen. And I have my remarks set up, and unfortunately, they don't equal at the very end of the calculator to something that's super good. And as normal, I'm just gonna give you my straight, candid thoughts as much as I can with as little scripting as possible, if any at all. So, I've got a few notes here, note cards, and before I get into the things that I really feel made this opinion for me, let me just first say a few things, okay? So, I liked The Mandalorian a lot. I liked Season 1 and Season 2. It was very enjoyable for me, and that whole I really do love it. And it's funny because a lot of the things that I end up liking about the book of Boba Fett are direct holdovers from The Mandalorian, which is not very good for the book of Boba Fett. But Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, or excuse me. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, I've really liked everything they've put out so far. I'm a big fan of both. They haven't done wrong by me very often. And very rarely they can just call up to the top of my head. Dave Filoni made the Clone Wars great, but now I'm wondering if it really is sort of a George Lucas situation where it wasn't so much Dave Filoni as much as it was the team around him and the situation he was in that produced that kind of really good work. Because, while I liked the Clone Wars and I liked parts of Rebels, I understand that Rebels was much more Filoni's project. And Rebels was too much of a kid's show for me to really enjoy. I liked certain parts of it, but it never got as deep or as intense as the Clone Wars did. Then, we go over to The Bad Batch, and what do we find in The Bad Batch? Very similar stuff, where The Bad Batch was cool, I liked certain parts of it, but overall, it just didn't feel as well developed, it didn't feel as compelling, it didn't get as deep, and it kind of felt contrived. That was a huge problem that I felt with The Bad Batch, was that oftentimes I felt certain situations and certain things and continuations were contrived, as though what should be done should be obvious if you gave it as much time as they have to think about it, and it never seemed like they were thinking. And I don't like that. I don't like it when I consistently can see how the characters can solve their problems in the moment, and they, don't think of it consistently. It's fine for it to happen once or twice. We can't all think of everything all the time, but it isn't something that should be crutched on or relied upon unless it's a particular thing in the story that is a part of that person's character or something. But this isn't really that. This is like everybody does it all the time. And that was in The Bad Batch. But still, I liked a lot of The Bad Batch, and I was very excited by the ending of The Bad Batch and where it left us and what we might expect in the future. But insofar as Filoni projects and Favreau projects, I think the Book of Boba Fett has hit the bottom of the barrel insofar as quality. And that isn't to say that the set design isn't awesome, that isn't to say that the costumes aren't awesome, and that most of the performances aren't great. But, as I'll get into, it just comes up really short for me in way too many metrics, and I'll really get into that, because this is a show, like almost all Star Wars shows, that I really wanted to like. I wanted to like it. I'm biased towards it, and I'm biased towards the creators. So it's like triple bias, maybe. You know, it's a lot. I'm loath to admit any flaw in this show because I'm loath to admit flaws in Star Wars, and I'm loath to admit flaws in my favorite Star Wars creators. But at the end of the day, I do feel like the Book of Boba Fett ends up standing on the top of the pile of the sequel era stuff insofar as the bad stuff, like the stuff that I throw this in to the same like general category, though at the top of that general category of what happened with the sequels, where you know what? Let me just instead of dancing around it, let me get into it. But before I get into the nitty-gritty stuff that I didn't like, you know, let me at least give a call-out, a shout-out to the things I did like, because a lot of effort went into this, and even though it came out the way that it came out, you can't get this many people with this much passion together not produce some things of quality, at the very least, and there was a lot in here that I did like. So, let me just go through that real quick, you know. With regards to Boba Fett, I think that Boba Fett in his flashbacks of the Tusken Raiders was fantastic. I loved Boba Fett with the Tusken Raiders. I feel like it made a lot of sense. You know, the Tusken Raiders basically take them and they turn them into slaves, but they have their own sense of honor and usefulness, and when it's obvious that Boba Fett is both more useful as a free member and willing to be a free member of the tribe, it makes sense that they gradually come to accept him, especially as he gradually comes to accept their ways and tendencies. And I really think that the best that we saw of Boba Fett in the Book of Boba Fett are his flashbacks, where he's either getting along or captured or getting along and then becoming part of the Tusken Raider tribe. And even after that, when we see the parts with Fennec Shand, where we, you know, filling in the gaps in The Mandalorian, where we find out how she gets better, you know, seeing Boba sitting there super chill with his Bantha and having a black melon in his hand and drinking it like he'd drink it from a cup of tea. That's a swagger I can get into. That's a Boba Fett swagger, and I really liked that. I loved those scenes. I liked the expanding of the Tusken Raider culture. I liked the whole train heist. I liked all of that. It all was really cool to me. The only issue I had with it was that the Tusken Raiders kind of accepted these speeder bikes, and from what I understand, Tusken Raiders have a prohibition against technology. It's not like Boba Fett is introducing them to speeder bikes for the first time, which is what it looks like. It should be more the case that he has to get them around this taboo, which is a shame they didn't tackle that, because if it had been the case that Boba Fett made them get around this taboo, it would not only make them much closer to him in that you don't just see him give ground and be more like them, but they give ground and are more like him, even against the taboo. But it would also explain, like, well, it would add more juice in that, you know, why wouldn't the other Tusken Raider clans ever help them? Why wouldn't the Tusken Raiders around them, or that they may have been allied with, take offense with the Pikes or with the speeder bike syndicates? Or, well, it's because they were going off of the way of the normal Tuskens, and so the other Tuskens would have seen that as destiny or the just desserts or what have you. I think there was more juice in that direction, but that aside, I loved everything about that. And honestly, that would have just added on top of what was already good versus made something that wasn't good better. I love the Tusken Raider stuff. I also really liked the exploration of the Pikes. You know, we've seen the Pikes in the Clone Wars, which, funny enough, they're almost more vicious in the Clone Wars and more crazy and more dangerous in the Clone Wars. But, you know, the cartoon. But that aside, they were still really cool and really, really mean here. And though I would have liked it if they were a bit more verbally aggressive or a bit more characterized in their minions a bit, you know, I was expecting them to be fighting high or to be, you know, more gangster or vulgar because they're gangsters and criminals. But, you know, it was fine, and what we got was still very elucidating and entertaining, and I liked it as a whole. You know, finding out more about the Night of 1,000 Tears was awesome. That whole cutscene was awesome. I really liked seeing at least parts of how the Empire would have got that down, and it was cool to see the Imperial battle droids being the ones that were hunting down the Mandalorians on the ground, sort of, you know, Terminator style, which I saw some inspiration for Terminator in a few places here, which I liked. I liked all of that inspiration. I liked watching the firebombing of Mandalore. I liked that a lot. That was also very cool. I mean, the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, he's a fucking treat. Every time we get to see him, he is just so cool. I mean, when he comes in at episode 5 and cuts that motherfucker in half with the Darksaber, I mean, come on, that shit was so fucking awesome. And you start to wonder, why don't we see Boba Fett doing that? I want to see Boba Fett cut some motherfucker in half, you know? It's just weird that it's like Din Djarin gets all these awesome shots and his scenes just feel so much better constructed. But whenever Din Djarin is around, he steals the fucking show. And I like that a lot. I liked most of Din Djarin's scenes a lot. And watching him sort of KOTOR style limp into the elevator and go turn in a quest and tell those people to go screw off while he goes and gets his own business done was really cool. I like him. He has a very good Mandalorian swagger. And he, so far, does the best representation of a good Mandalorian, like a light side Mandalorian that I think we've ever seen, where he is guided by his creed and his honor, which we'll get into another part of that a little later that isn't so good. But for the most part, it's portrayed extremely well. And he really does give me the impression of a person who isn't necessarily a softie, but is bound to an honorable creed and therefore is an honorable, not softie man. And I like that a lot. It comes off very well. I like that tremendously. What else can I say? The Darksaber. The Darksaber is awesome. Finding out that the Darksaber has an entirely different function and ability to control its weight than normal lightsabers is really, really cool. It also helps to explain scenes in the Clone Wars where it seems like the Darksaber has some weight to it. And it also definitely ego boosts Darth Maul, who takes that shit and is like the master of it the instant he's got his hands on it. But it also goes to explaining why he didn't keep it around as much as he kept around his normal saber. Why wouldn't Darth Maul have mounted the Darksaber on his little saber staff thing? Well, it's explainable. It's because that would require a very different fighting style that Darth Maul simply is not super proficient in and has no reason to become proficient in. He can just use his regular lightsaber just as well. So I liked expanding on the Darksaber and learning about it. I liked seeing all that. I liked finding out about what exactly went on. You know, it's very linked to the Night of a Thousand Tears. So I like that a whole lot, you know. And I really like the Tatooine repair lady, Peli. I like Peli a lot. Peli is hilarious. Her interactions are hilarious. She's a joy whenever she's on screen, at least for the most part. You know, this last episode puts asterisks on the end of all those because they're in so many scenes, and some of those scenes I just really can't stand, but we'll get into that. But for the most part, Peli is a joy. I love Peli. The actress who does her does a great job. She is the perfect comedic stand-in for like C-3PO or R2-D2. She does what they were supposed to do in a way that is just so good and so fantastic. They should lean into her because what she does is great, and she's cut a little space out for herself in that part of the universe that lets her act that way and not get in the way of everything else or disturb the mood, at least so far. So I love Peli. Peli's great. So that is, you know, aside from that and the set design and the CGI, which is fantastic, and several other pieces of like the ambient world building, those are the things I liked the most about the Book of Boba Fett. I'm sorry, I don't know if I said this already, but I'll say it now. You know, huge spoilers coming up in case it's not obvious, but huge spoilers coming up. So the Book of Boba Fett, those are the things I liked about it. I really like those things. Those are great things. Oh, one more thing. I can't believe I almost forgot. Yes, and it's good that I mentioned this only after the spoilers, but I mean, the internet's been covered in it, so I don't think that you could get away from it. But Cad Bane. Cad motherfucking Bane. He looks great. I don't care if his mouth could be lower. If you guys are trying to, like, you know, I think that the examples have already been made with, like, Count Dooku's face and stuff. If you guys are trying to make him look exactly like he did in the cartoon, you're missing the point of that stylization. It's not supposed to be 100% true to life. Cad Bane looks and sounds and acts fantastic. Asterix. Most of the time, asterix. For fuck's sake, asterix. God damn it, I hate that I have to say that. But for the most part, 90% of Cad Bane's scenes are gold. I love him. I love how he's acted and portrayed. I like him a lot. I like him. Cad Bane did a great job in this series. He's great, for the most part. So, I think that's about everything. Yeah, I think that just about covers everything that I thought was really exceptional and great about the Book of Boba Fett. Now, if you don't know already, the Book of Boba Fett is about Boba Fett trying to set up his own crime lord empire on Tatooine. And it's supposed to be somewhat analogous to Jabba the Hutt's crime empire. And I have so many problems with this, with the execution of this, rather. I don't mind Boba Fett trying to become a crime lord. Oh, excuse me. In many ways, Boba Fett trying to become a crime lord reads very strongly. And I like the premise. I like how much juice is involved in just the thought process of thinking that. But God, is the execution misguided, you know? And it confuses me so much. Because I feel like I've seen Dave Filoni do better than this and write better than this. And I'm going to get into this really deep because this is not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 problems. This is like a whole enormous, thick-ass stack of problems that will stop me from being able to enjoy the Book of Boba Fett and ever really look back on it. I have rewatched parts of The Mandalorian. I don't think I will be ever able to rewatch like more than like maybe episode 5 and maybe episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, and I don't think I'll ever be able to rewatch episode 7 because so much is wrong with it. So the first big, blaring, obvious, how the fuck did this get past anybody in the writing room issue that is super huge and present throughout the entire show is Boba Fett. He's too soft. And yes, I realize that the universe isn't blind to that, and that they're aware of it, and he gets called out for being soft at least 3 or 4 times in the series. But, like, that doesn't make it a whole lot better because it still doesn't explain what's going on. Why? What? Did that lizard going up his nose completely fry out his brain? What? I don't understand what the hell is wrong with Boba. He gets dropped into the Sarlacc pit, and is gone for 2 years with the Tusken Raiders, and that completely altered his brain chemistry, changed his entire past, altered his every single behavior, altered his entire modus operandi. It feels, to be super frank, and I don't know, I don't know if this will ever get to anybody's ear. I don't know if Dave Filoni will ever listen to this. But if he does, if Dave Filoni ever does listen to this, Dave, I love you. You are one of my idols as a creator. Please tell me this wasn't your idea. There must have been an extenuating circumstance here. This must have been mandated by Disney or the studio, because what this feels like is like they were like, okay, Boba Fett's going to be the main character of one of our Disney shows? Well, then we have to Disney-fy him. And, like, he's been Disney-fied below the bar of even The Mandalorian, to the point where I was telling you how The Mandalorian is a great example of an honorable, light-side Mandalorian. So a good guy, for the most part. Boba Fett is, like, a giant sopping pussy. Like, what the fuck happened to this guy? It's weird because it's like, okay, if he's grown a conscience this big and is trying to go this straight, you'd think that he'd have a nightmare or two about the countless people, countless bounties that he has just, like, people in the pursuit of bounties that he has disintegrated. It's kind of funny because Din Djarin does the same thing, where Din Djarin uses a disintegrator, but at the very least, Din Djarin is guided by a code, not a strict morality or anything like that, or a thing of like, I'm going to do good. No, I'm going to be a proper Mandalorian is Din Djarin's thing, and it just so happens the Mandalorian code leads him to do good and proper things according to the people he associates with, completing those contracts. I mean, it would be very bad if it were the opposite way, because, he could be taking a bad person's contract and he has to complete the bad person's contract, which we've kind of already seen happen with the first, with him in his first contract in his series. But the point is he still has to complete it. Here, it's all good because he's working with good people, but the whole point is just that we have reason to believe and reason to understand why the Mandalorian does not lose sleep over disintegrating Jawas with the most painful, most inhumane weapon ever devised in Star Wars outside of planet killers. It's so bad that even the Imperial Senate and the Empire banned their use, and like legitimately banned it. Like the Empire was not using disruptors after a certain point in time, not even secretly, which is really wild, because why the fuck not? It's just crazy. It really gives you that feel of how unnecessarily cruel the disruptor rifles were. Which they're not unnecessarily cruel. They're so effective at just killing whatever you shoot at, that I don't understand how they did not equip, at the very least, the Dark Troopers with just straight up disruptor rifles. What, you want them to have shitty bullshit blasters that don't get through walls and don't... Give me a break. Give me a break, okay? But my whole point in going off on that tangent is that Boba Fett has to be told not to disintegrate people by Darth Vader, okay? Like, he was so extreme that one of the dudes that represents dark side extremity in this universe had to tell him to tone it the fuck down. We can't jump from that. We cannot jump from that to this. This is too much. It's not even like Boba Fett has a creed, or Boba Fett's decided to just do the right thing in general. Boba Fett has gone completely straight to the point that he doesn't want to even shoot anybody. Like, Boba Fett, I don't even know how you could fix this. Like, we've gone so deep in this direction with Boba Fett acting this way that, like, we would literally have to have it be the case that, like, he had brain damage from that lizard going up his nose to begin explaining this, because he has to... I don't know how to fix this. It's like we need to bring Boba Fett to an emotional breaking point all over again so he can break this new character and turn him back into Boba Fett, because he's so soft. Like a piece of shit nobody who's a piece of shit, who is a piece of shit, walks into his court, like walks into his crime lord palace. Oh my God. And he tells him that, just to his face, he tells him, nobody respects you. And he not only not shoots this guy, he stops Fennec Shand from shooting him. I mean, what does he think is going to happen if this watermonger that everybody hates leaves this place and just tells the story of his visit to Boba Fett faithfully? Like, makes nothing up, just tells it exactly the way it happens. You know, was it any... You know, I don't even know what's better or what's worse. The fact that, like, for a second there, I thought the universe wasn't going to react to this, or the fact that it did. I mean, I'll get into that later, but God, he's so soft, it makes no sense. He's so soft and so old and so weak. You know, he's so weak. In, like, one of the first few episodes, he gets boxed in by these bullshit assassins, and they seal him into this circle of shields, okay? And he doesn't jetpack over it, and, like, he's just, like, basically fucked up by this. And I get it, he was still healing, like, you know, he still needed to heal from the Bacta tank. Why do we even have that going on? Why do we even have that? No one wants to watch Boba Fett be weak, okay? No one wants to watch Boba Fett be soft, okay? Why would you make a series about Boba Fett where these things are happening? So Boba Fett gets his ass beat, like, in the entire first half of this series, and has to consistently rely on, like, the quest items that he's picked up, the quest people he's picked up throughout his really small-time adventure to solve the issue for him. You know, at one point, he's in his Bacta tank, and Black Chrysanthemum gets into his room and pulls him out of his Bacta tank and starts to beat the shit out of him. And yeah, okay, Boba Fett has a reason for being on the slide here. You know, he was in the middle of his Bacta tank heal treatment and whatever, and I was given to believe from previous scenes where the Gamorrean guards were standing outside of his Bacta tank without him having signaled them, that he had guards in the room with him to stop that kind of thing from happening. He knows at this point. He knows that he's competing with two huts. With two huts that are huts. They're huts. that they're going to send an assassin or a bounty hunter or both after him, and they do. And he has no plan for that? I just don't... Oh, my head hurts. My head hurts just thinking about that. Why isn't he being watched by his Gamorrean guards? And you know, it's at that point that I really began to feel and understand how that palace is empty. You know, empty. When Jabba the Hutt owned that palace, and we got our look around the palace, you got the sense that it was like a fully staffed palace with hundreds of guards and personnel, maybe thousands of personnel, depends on how big the actual palace is, but you did not get the impression that the palace was tremendously empty. You got the impression that they were like 40 bounty hunters, independent bounty hunters at any given time, standing around Jabba the Hutt, just waiting for him to have a job for them to swoop up and pick up. At no point do you get the feeling that Boba Fett has captured a tenth of that. Not even a tenth of that. And it's painful. It's painful. It pains me. I'm pained to watch this. It just... It makes so little sense.
Getting banged around here. I caught one. Where's the escort? We need cover here.
It's just way too much for me. I mean, he has lost all sense of tactics. He has lost all sense of cunning, of brutality, of anything. It's like when he got all the daimyos together, or the whatevers, the Gotras, and he was like telling them to stay neutral and stuff. It's like, why? First, why would they? And second, why would he think they would? Why would he think they would? Why would he think that? You know, it's one thing for him to be soft, you know, but why does he have to be stupid too? It makes no sense. God, why did they... This is why I have to say there have to be extenuating circumstances. Like, people had to be interfering with the portrayal of Boba Fett here, because Dave Filoni has handled Boba Fett episodes before when Boba Fett is a kid. And Boba Fett as a kid ran a tighter, more intelligent crew than what we see here. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I really... Oh, man. It kind of makes me sick to talk about it for too long, because it really is just... he's not the same character. That's not my Boba Fett. That's not my... They replaced him with another clone. It was another clone. Like, watch that be the excuse as to how we get our normal Boba Fett back, because this Boba Fett is not tenable. You know, we can't go another season with this Boba Fett, because this Boba Fett is lame. He's a loser. I mean that literally, like, he loses. He's a loser. And not only that, but he's not any of the things that made us like him, aside from that he, in this last episode, got to kick some ass. And, like, I'll say this. When he was shooting up the pikes and lifting up his leg and firing the missiles from his knee pad, that was cool. I liked that. But that's just a drop in the bucket, and the rest of the bucket is full of garbage. I mean, it really is. So, unless they can sell me on Boba Fett being this kind of person, which they just can't, this series is less than worthless. God, it does such a disservice to Boba Fett. It does such a disservice to Boba Fett. You know, I really can't handle that. And it goes even further than just the way he acts. You know, it goes even further, because maybe he could get away with acting this way if people remembered who he was. You know, like, hold on, I'm gonna get back to this point in a second, but something occurred to me that I feel is a really good comparison for this. So, if you're a creator, you know, trying to do a character contrast, or if you're actually a person associated with the show, then I think this will best contrast the way that I feel it should have been handled, okay? In Star Trek Discovery, which turns out, once you get past Season 1, which was a total mess in production, it's not as bad. It's not as bad. The thing that hampers Star Trek Discovery is that it's too linear. It's not episode of the week in any way. And because it's so entirely linear, it sort of forces you to swallow all the bad episodes with the good episodes, which every other Star Trek series prior didn't force you to do. You could literally just pick and choose all the good episodes in the previous Star Treks and it'd be great. But that tangent aside, in Star Trek Discovery, spoilers for Star Trek Discovery incoming, at least mild spoilers for a certain character. Not mild spoilers, my bad. Big spoilers, but only for one character. We have Empress Georgiou. She is the Warhammer 40k Empress of the Star Trek Reverse Universe. It's great. If you, like, seriously, those episodes are some of the most fun, and it really feels like the cast had a lot of fun playing their evil selves and playing the Star Trek Imperium, which is exactly what they're doing. You know, it's exactly what they're doing. So, Georgiou, Empress Georgiou, grows up and lives in the Star Trek Reverse Universe where everyone is evil, and is in fact not even necessarily a human, but is a Terran, which is at least somewhat genetically distinct from a standard human being, and they're more aggressive and they're more horny all the time, and they're evil. So there you go. Well, one thing the series did that was really interesting is they converted her over. They save her from a coup and then bring her over to the standard universe, and she sort of has to adjust to being in the Star Trek universe from having existed in what was essentially 40k beforehand, just like not nearly as shitty and not nearly as brutal. By brutal, I mean people didn't bleed as much. There weren't as many corpses everywhere. But all corpses were eaten, so, you know, there are a lot of things that were similar. But in any case, again, staying off that tangent, they convert Georgiou over from being the brutal Star Trek Reverse Universe Empress of, like, the Imperium to a still brutal, still very much herself, but chilled out, now working for good version of herself. And this is put to the ultimate test at the end of her arc, where she is sent back, not only to the Reverse Universe, but back in time to before the coup occurred, and seemingly is left there to live. And you get to see what she would have done differently. In the end, she's unable to shift to the Imperium. There's too much of an apparatus, too much of a culture, too much of an everything going on around her for her to actually convert it over to being for the betterment of all species, or even for the legitimate betterment of the human species. It's all got too much momentum going for it. But she tries. You see Georgiou take her throne and attempt to begin the transition of giving aliens rights, of, you know, making overtures, of ceasing the endless wars, of taking her officers and her daughter and trying to convert them over to a kinder, gentler way of thinking so they can appreciate things like beauty, appreciate things like art. You know, you see her do exactly what Boba Fett is supposed to be trying to do in this series, but it works. And part of the reason why it works is because while she is working for the greater good, she cannot get rid of who she was. She cannot stop being what she is. You know, at one point, you know, she's trying super hard to get Michael Burnham's Reverse Universe self, who is her adopted daughter. She's trying to get her to join her on this path toward a lighter, better future. But the Reverse Universe Michael Burnham is evil with a capital E. This bitch is just, God, she would be nasty even in the Warhammer 40k universe. She'd be nasty. She's like that space marine who tried to shoot Eldrad in the face during the rebirth ritual for Yanid, even understanding that the Eldar are trying to do what they think is best, and even understanding that this doesn't have to happen. And he's like, yeah, I'd rather that all of mankind eat shit and die than we work with fucking Xenos. Like, that is the kind of person that Michael Burnham is, okay? And so she's not going to convert. No fucking way. No fucking way. She's going to eat Kelpians every goddamn day if she has the option to do so. And there's nothing that Empress Georgiou can do about it. Nothing. But what happens? Two things happen. Two very interesting things. First of all, Empress Georgiou is still Empress Georgiou, even though she's trying to work for the greater good. So what does this mean? She can't let Michael go. She can't let her go. She's too attached. She is the Empress. What she wants, she gets. Maybe not by divine right, though, you know, that too, but by her own cunning, by her own strength. She's not a person who's accustomed to taking no for an answer on anything. So she does not take no for an answer on anything. And when Michael tries to kill her, even though it weakens her empire and everything, she spares her life. And when it comes to like trying to fix her, she tries to approach her with logic, she tries to approach her with reason, she tries to use words, it doesn't work, so what does she do? She throws Michael Burnham's reverse self into a fucking torture chamber, and she makes her sleep in it. She tortures her day and night. She sends her best torturer, the best torturer in the Imperium, to go torture Michael Burnham until she breaks. Break her so I can remake her. That's like literally at one point she's watching Michael being tortured and she thinks to herself, why is it that the only thing children respond to is pain? And no, that is not a moral virtue right there. That isn't the lesson that the episode is trying to teach you. That is an example of her character. That is an example of Empress Georgiou trying to do the right thing and still being unable to do quite the right thing because of who and what she is. We needed that for Boba Fett. We needed that for Boba Fett so badly, and we just did not get it. He does not seem to struggle in any way with the person he used to be. He instead struggles with the universe around him, which is like, well, why are you trying to be a crime lord? Why are you doing this? Why are you... And yeah, seriously, why are you doing that? Like, if he's trying to go straight, like really straight, then why isn't he trying to be mayor of Mos Espa versus daimyo? You know, if he's trying to go straight, why isn't he calling in help from the New Republic? We see that they have a presence out here. There were New Republic TIE fighters. There were New Republic X-Wings hanging around, literally just so ambiently that they caught the Mandalorian out of nowhere. He could have been anywhere in the fucking system, anywhere around the planet, but those X-Wings caught him. They have a presence here. They clearly have a presence here. He could not necessarily work for the New Republic dead ass, but he could request help from them, aid from an integration of some kind. It would be better for Mos Espa. It'd be better for Tatooine if the Republic could get in here and provide some real basic services for people. You could at least show him try, but you know, none of that is really done. So what does he do instead? He goes and tries to be a crime lord that does no crime. He tries to be a crime lord who commits no crime. Why are we writing this? Whose idea is this? This doesn't make any goddamn sense. It just doesn't, it works against itself as a premise. Why would anyone do that? You know, and Boba Fett just has no remnant of who he used to be. Did we ever even really know who Boba Fett was? You know, that's the question you have to ask yourself after watching this. And then we get to how people treat Boba Fett. Okay, Boba Fett knows he's not going to shoot you, but you don't know that. You know, like, we get to the watermonger, you know, he has the confidence to go up there and say that, and you have to think that he's mentally ill or crazy, because Boba Fett has a very long, storied past that is much longer and much older than the stories he has just made or the death of 2 years that he has just gone through. If you are standing in front of a man that you think is Boba Fett, you should be afraid that you might suffer the worst kind of death via disruptor rifle at any second that you're in his presence, especially if you're going to say things that piss him off. Doesn't matter. Nobody remembers that. The watermonger goes and tells him to his face that nobody respects him. And then, when he goes to deal with the fucking biker gang, the mod gangers, yo, here we go. Here we fucking go. I hate these guys. Their concept is cool. I hate them. I hate them. I hate the way they're portrayed. I cannot stand them. Every scene they're in, I cringe. And it's for two big stupid reasons. One, they have no respect or fear for Boba Fett. Yeah, bitch, I get it. You don't have a job, and that's the reason you're doing crime. But you should be afraid for your life. What exactly about you not having a job makes you think that Boba Fett won't just shoot you? Why is everyone so certain that Boba Fett won't just shoot them? Why are they so sure that if he did, they could get out of it alive? He's got a history of cutting through entire bases for one person. Nobody fears Boba Fett. His reputation in the galaxy might as well not fucking exist. And it hurts. It hurts to watch that. It hurts to watch him get mouthed off to with no fear of repercussion. Especially when he doesn't correct them. It would be one thing if Boba Fett was like, okay, gonna sass to me and shoot someone in the foot at least. But no. Nothing. You know, he says he wants to be respected, not feared. Well, he doesn't demand respect either. You know, to get respect, you gotta do something that shows you're worth respecting. And failing to do noble things isn't worth respecting. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Watching them mouth off to him at almost every turn is ridiculous. I thought that would end once they started working for him. Because now he can hold the threat of their jobs over their heads. You know, those jobs they needed so bad that he's paying them? No. This shit does not matter. That gang is also on a moral bent for some reason. And a moral bent that makes no fucking sense. See, in episode 7, you know, Boba Fett wants to wait for the Pikes, who are about to show up with a quote-unquote army. We'll get into that in a second. But they want to show up with an army to attack Boba Fett. So, naturally, Boba Fett wants to go to his fortress and wait for them there. And the biker gangers won't fucking move. They won't budge. They don't make an appeal to him. They make an ultimatum. We're not leaving. It'd be one thing if they were like, boss, we'll go, but it's not right. We should stay. We should defend these people. That's what we thought we were doing. And then Boba Fett's like, you're right. You know, not that you're forcing me to make this choice, but you're right. But no, they're so obstinate and fucking disgustingly stupid that they sit there and make ultimatums at their boss who can fire them or kill them. And it's like, makes no sense. Like, the universe pays no attention to this. Whatever. So, they make this case to him. And the first thing that I think is, well, they don't want to destroy Mos Espa. They don't want to. First of all, even before we know the Gotras are working for them, we know the mayor is working for them. And the mayor is only mayor of anything so long as a city is left behind. And the collateral damage that would only occur while fighting Boba Fett. So naturally, God, I hate this. Naturally, if they go to the palace, the fight will happen in the palace. It won't happen in the middle of the street. These people are so ridiculous. They're so ridiculous. I can't, they're so bad. So that's big reason number one why I cannot stand the speeder bike gang and why I hate the mod gang, why I hate them. The second reason is their speeders are slow and lame. Like, who had the idea of giving them lame, color-coded speeders like that? Whatever, fine. That could be a quirky thing about the gang. You know, maybe I'm nitpicking there. But you know what I'm not nitpicking on? You know what I'm not nitpicking on? They're slow as shit. Come on, CGI those stupid things. Whatever technology you guys are using to make those speeders look there, you need to use old Star Wars, old fucking, like, George Lucas, like, speeders and Endor technology, and give us the sense that these things are moving at speed. Like, they're so slow. Why on earth are they so slow? They're slow. They're so slow. I can't stand it. I can believe that when we're watching Jedi fight, that we're watching them fight more slowly than we might expect because we need to be able to keep up with it and because of the restraints of live action. We have seen live action speeding speeders. Is that too much to ask for speeding speeder bikes? It's fucking crazy. These mod gangers fuck up everything they touch and I can't stand it. I really can't stand it. Even the fights where they help Boba Fett out, they're fights that should not have happened. They're fights that make no sense. When Black Chrysanthemum showed up at Boba Fett's back tank, I thought for sure he had already killed the 2 Gamorrean guards. That could be the only explanation as to how this contrivance had arrived at reality. But no, he snuck around them, and Boba Fett had no security systems, no droid security systems, no fucking nothing. And he's alone in that room, and it isn't until the gangers outside hear the struggle going on that they come in to help. God, there's so much wrong with this. I mean, there is so much wrong with this, and I want to not see it. I want to not see it. But nobody remembers Boba Fett. Nobody's afraid of Boba Fett. Nobody thinks Boba Fett will shoot them. And what's worse, he won't. He won't fucking do it. He will not fucking do it. The show is the essence of unsatisfying. But then we get further. So, the scale of things. You know how I said there's a war going on? There's going to be a war? Yeah, it's a war between, at best, 100 people on one side and 100 people on the other. And I am really giving, like, it's more like a war of, like, a squad of 20 people versus a squad of 80 people at best. I don't know how many nobodies got shot in the middle of the street, but just, I had the impression when these forces were moving out that Boba Fett... Why does Boba Fett not hire a mercenary company? See, it doesn't... God, so little of this makes sense to me. It's like, Boba Fett needs muscle. And he's got lots of credits. And we all know that mercenary companies exist. We all know that multiple bounty hunters exist. So why didn't he hire a whole mess of bounty hunters to do... to the Pikes what the bounty hunting guild on Navarro tried to do to the Mandalorian? Why don't we get that? Why don't we get that? It would help a lot if there were just a bunch of other targets to be shooting at, so that we're not so super aware of the continuous plot armor that is just coding every one of the main characters or good guy characters in this show. Just coding them from head to toe. And I'll get more into that later, but the scale of everything is tiny. It's teeny tiny. It feels like we're watching somebody play a Boba Fett role-playing game on tabletop. And the person who's playing Boba Fett doesn't have any idea how to play Boba Fett. And the GM is a new-time GM who is just pitching really tiny, low softballs at the player. That's what it feels like. You know, it feels like a show that might be meant for kids. But it's even more confusing than the Clone Wars, because it's like... The Clone Wars had ways of censoring things, but I feel like the Clone Wars was more graphic than this one is. With the exception of Episode 5 and the awesome fight scene in Episode 5, everything else in this show is sanitized. Everything else in this show feels much more sanitized, at least. Aside from the flashbacks. God, you know, I've already named the things that are not sanitized. I've already named them. The things that I liked, they were the things that were not sanitized. Everything else was sanitized. And I don't know who they're sanitizing it for. Is this show for kids? Like, this show should not be for kids. This show should be for us. Why on earth do I feel like I'm watching a kids show? You can't make me watch a kids show about Boba Fett becoming a crime lord. That shit doesn't make any sense. It's just weird. Why? And why is the scale of everything so tiny? Why? I had the impression that the Pikes could bring a greater force to bear than what they brought. But whatever. It's not even clear how many they brought because they dropped like flies. I totally thought Boba Fett was going to have a better reason to have so little to come with. Or come with a whole lot more. And he came with nothing. The scale of everything is pathetic. You know, I can't stand that. I can't stand having to criticize this show because I wanted so badly to like it. But Boba Fett makes bad decisions. And what's worse, the universe punishes him for it, which makes them legitimately bad decisions. Actually, I don't know if that's worse or better. You know, what would be worse? That the universe didn't punish him and therefore, like, validated his bad decision making? I mean, at least then it wouldn't be straight up bad decision making because it did end up working, but it doesn't, which just re-emphasizes in canon the point that Boba Fett is ridiculous. He's ridiculous. And honestly, I am not at all satisfied with this conclusion because I don't feel like he earned it. He did not earn the victory that he got. Nothing felt earned. Too many contrivances occurred before the end could come for me to feel like anybody could have earned this victory. Nothing felt proper. Nothing felt right. Like, there are just these constant contradictions all over the place. You know, that like all right, let me give you a few examples. You know, aside from like what I just gave you, where you know, Boba Fett makes bad decisions, he's too soft. Boba Fett decided not to take the fight to the palace, even though the fight would have happened in the palace safely away from a population. Fucking fuck. Aside from that, okay? Why the fuck did Boba Fett put Black Chrysanthemum in the Trandoshan district? At that point in time, it was understood that the Trandoshans were going to be neutral. Black Chrysanthemum hates Trandoshans. He could kill any one of them at any point in time for staring at him wrong. The show went out of its way to show us that. Does it now want us to ignore that? Why does it want us to ignore that? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. That simply does not make any goddamn sense. But they put Black Chrysanthemum in the Trandoshan district because Wookiee and Trandoshans. Even though it makes no sense as to why he would choose to do that, aside from that Boba Fett makes bad decisions, they made that decision. Whatever. Why is the plot armor so thick on everyone that it's just loud? You know, we see that Boba Fett and the Mandalorian are not actually covered in total Beskar. There are gaps in their armor that a thick enough flurry of fire should get through, but they don't get through them. And we've seen Boba Fett tank shots from blasters without even flinching. So why is he flinching now? Why is he getting knocked over now so much? I mean, are they hitting him outside of his Beskar armor? Could we see that? No, it's just that we need to show him being overwhelmed without him actually taking any damage, and it's super contrived. It's super noticeable, and it's super contrived. But that's not half as contrived as Black Chrysanthemum's plot armor. The guy has got a bandolier, and all the shots are landing in his bandolier. Oh my god! That's so stupid. Look, if you're gonna show us that Wookiees are just so tough they can tank blaster shots, which is ridiculous, but whatever, just show us that. But what you cannot show us is a target as large as Black Chrysanthemum. These guys are worse than Stormtroopers. Like, they've turned the Pike Gang into worse Stormtroopers. Because even Stormtroopers wouldn't have fucked that up so badly. At least when Stormtroopers were missing Chewbacca, they were ordered to do so. They were ordered to miss Chewbacca and Han Solo and Luke and Leia when they were escaping from the Death Star. They were ordered to act incompetent, but these Pikes are not. So why on earth are they acting that way? Why can't they hit any part of him that isn't the biggest part of him? God. You know, and what? We're really supposed to believe that Black Chrysanthemum defeated and or killed all of those Trandoshans. All of them. Like, he's one guy, and he's not even a guy that we're super aware of how good he's supposed to be. He got beat up by a bunch of stupid bullshit mod gangers. You know, like, God, it's just weird. All of this is weird. It's weird. Nobody has earned it. Nobody's earned any of that crap. Black Chrysanthemum being alive after being covered in Trandoshans is contrived. Oh yeah, and let's talk about that scene. For one moment, we see that all the Trandoshans are holding weapons. All the Trandoshans have blasters. All the Trandoshans have swords. All of them have weapons. And what happens? When they pile up on him, all their weapons are gone. Did you think we wouldn't notice that? Am I supposed to take this universe seriously? Where did their guns go? Where did their weapons go? Guys, I am not trying to be CinemaSins here. I'm not. These are normally nitpicks, but they're so prevalent. There's so many of them that you can't help but notice at least a few, because they just are everywhere, all over the place. So, Black Chrysanthemum is made of plot armor. He's composed of fucking plot armor. Oh no, wait. Actually, that's the people of Freetown and the mod gangers that survived like the initial assault. Because those droids are so ridiculous. I mean, I don't even know if I can get into this. I don't even know if I can get into this right now. The droids, in episode 7, they send enormous Scorpitech or something like that droids to go destroy them. And they're really slow. The droids are really slow, like droidicas. And it makes sense because their shield bubbles hit the ground. So for the ground not to get torn up and picked up after them, they would have to be moving at a standard slower pace like the droidicas do to, you know, not tear up the ground. Scorpioneck droids make total sense in that. What doesn't make sense is that, one, they don't start shooting once you're in weapons range. They walk right up to you like they cannot aim. And, God, it would have been so easy for this contrivance to make sense, you know? Just have Boba Fett deploy a countermeasure. Have them do something that would scramble droid electronics and make their aiming really hard to perform, so they have to get really close, and even then they're not very accurate. Why can't we have that? Whatever. Whatever, man. Whatever. These droids can't hit anything. They can't hit anything. They need to get really close with very powerful long-range blaster cannons. They need to get very close to you to even start shooting. And then when they start shooting, they can't hit a group of people that are running directly in front of them. Why are these contrivances being allowed to be in the show? Why? Why? They suck the fun out of everything. My suspension of disbelief is just being raped at this point. Like, so many things don't make sense that after a certain point, it's like I'm not watching the show anymore. Because the show is too obviously a show. I can see the strings on all the puppets. I can see the curtains on the side of the stage. You know, my suspension of disbelief is totally broken. These droids. And the way they react to them. Why aren't you just running? What is the point of shooting at the droid shield after you realize that it won't work? Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn figured that out really quickly. What did they do afterwards? They ran away. That made perfect sense. That was perfectly logical. I mean, what is happening here? Is this a sabotage? Like, are we sabotaging Star Wars on purpose? Because this is ridiculous. This is really loud and really ridiculous. But not as ridiculous as the thing that happens next. So we have these stupid droids that can't hit the broadside of a barn with 4 gigantic blaster cannons that would carry for a very long distance. But here's the big kicker. Everyone runs away from them, and the Mandalorian even runs away on a very fast, speedy, I think it's like a, what do you call it? A cart, like there's a better name for it, but it's slipping my mind right now. I'm so angry. He runs away on this thing. He gets on its back. The droid who's pulling it has a wheel on it, and it is able to move at a pretty fast speed. And every time we cut in to check with the Scorpioneck droid, we can see that it's not able to keep up. It's too slow. However, it can teleport. It has magic cutscene teleportation where every time the camera cuts away from it and then cuts back, it's suddenly closer again and therefore not out of blasting range and still there and stuff. God, I hate that. Why? There's so many of these problems. There's so many. Why are there so many? This doesn't make any sense. I just don't understand it. You know, so we have the issue of the Scorpioneck droids being slow but fast, being powerful but not powerful, being able, like, you know, they can shoot holes in a fucking Rancor, but they can't shoot holes in a foot wide hole of what, dirt? Like, what the fuck are these buildings made out of? Ridiculous. But then we get to the you know, more kickers. God, I couldn't even get all of this stuff down. But what what to move on to next, you know? It just... So, the biker gangers and the people of Freetown are running away in a gigantic cluster. Again, they're running away from one droid. Not one of them has the idea to scatter. Not one of them scatters. They could scatter, and it would be a very easy way of getting rid of that droid. And it should not be able to keep up with them. It's slow as shit. But they don't scatter, and they don't outdistance it. They don't run around it, even though it's very easy to outmaneuver. Nothing. Not only that, but the shields on it apparently work different from droideka shields or something. I mean, Black Chrysanthemum tried to reach through it, but Black Chrysanthemum was wearing an energy weapon gauntlet, so it's unclear as to how that works. However, in previous series, in the Clone Wars series in fact, we have seen that shielding of the kind being used by those droids can be circumvented by simply taking a solid object and moving it slowly towards it. How might that help, you might ask? Well, we saw that the Mandalorian is strapped with a bunch of explosives and grenades. He can just pick one up, get behind one of those droids, move his hand nice and slow through the fucking thing, and then just toss it onto a leg, or pin it somewhere, or just drop it on the ground at its feet, and then blow one of its legs off. Or something, man. This is really easy. You know, he even mentions that the reason their ballistic weapons can't get through is because of velocity, not because it's simply rejecting, like, physical things. So, where is the logic here? Why are we contriving the Mandalorian to now make dumb decisions? You know, it's really stupid. It doesn't make any sense. But everybody is stupid in this final episode, especially in the final episode. In the final episode, everyone's dumb except for Fennec Shand. Fennec Shand is the star of the final episode, and virtually nobody else is. Like, what happens? What happens? Well, guess what? The Rancor attacks, and it's having these big showdowns with the droids because it's the only thing strong enough to take down the droids, which is so dumb. You know, the idea that the Mandalorians don't have any anti-droid weaponry or anti-shield weaponry on them, especially at this point in time, it's just so stupid. But whatever, man. Whatever, okay? So, the Rancor's having a hard time fighting these droids, especially the second one, which is cutting him up and shooting him up multiple times. And it's just very painful looking, and you hurt for the Rancor, and you want the Rancor to be okay because it's just a dumb animal. It doesn't know what the fuck is happening. Well, when it's tearing down and has torn down the shields of these droids, there are lots of people there, including Peli with her ion rifle, and none of them shoot at the droid. And I mean, if you're afraid of hitting the Rancor, you shouldn't be. The Rancor is clearly so strong and has a pelt so powerful, it can take like blaster cannon to medium blaster cannon blast shots at point blank range and not even be mortally wounded or anything. It can just keep going like it's nothing. So, shoot the droid. Why was everyone shooting the droid when the droid's shield was up, and nobody is shooting the droid when the droid's shield is down? Why? I'd be trying to get shots in. I would not just be watching. I would need to have some impact on this conflict that is going to have an impact on my life and my ability to continue it. It's just so contrived. So contrived. It feels so contrived. You know, the contrivances are just so thick everywhere. Nothing makes any sense in this series. You know, Cad Bane, here's a huge spoiler. Turn off if you don't want to hear about what happens to Cad Bane. Turn off. It's horrible. Cad Bane dies. He's killed. And the actual Deathstroke is really cool, but you know what isn't cool? The fact that Cad Bane waited until the entire army was defeated. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? What internal logic is going on? It makes no sense. Cad Bane is always down to get his fucking hands dirty. He's such a sharp shot. He could have killed all of those stupid motherfuckers that were hiding behind that one wall, he would have been able to pick them off. Blink, 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 blink. What was his plan? What was his plan? Let's say he kills Boba Fett. He kills him. What, do you think it's over now? Do you think it's over now? Do you not see all of his allies here? Do you not see the other Mandalorian here? Do you not see Fennec Shand? What is wrong with you? What is wrong? Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. This last episode especially, in episode 7, nothing makes sense. And I'm sorry that I'm being so repetitious, but it's because the problems are so varied, yet they all come from like this one source of contrivance that nothing makes any sense. Nobody is thinking anything through. Nobody is acting like the character they should be. Nothing makes sense. I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. Compared to The Mandalorian, this show is like gobbledygook. It's like nonsense. I have no idea how we took such a nosedive in the writing. Like, such a nosedive in the writing. And let's talk about the acting for a second, too. You know, most of the main characters are all doing great, but you know what? You know who feels like they phoned in their fucking performances? Like, God, the cheers, the victory cheers that are given in this show at the end of things, whenever something happens and there's like a group of people and they victory cheer, it feels so phoned in. The fear responses to the Rancor felt so phoned in. Is anybody taking this show seriously? Is anybody taking this show seriously? The secondary performances from the secondary actors in this show are like phoned in. You know, like one of the things I hated about the Mod Gang is that we have not spent any time with these characters to get to know them as people at all. We don't know what they like, what they're like. We don't know anything about them aside from that they're part of the Mod Gang and they don't have jobs and they're obstinate as all shit. But we don't get any ability to get to know these people. But you know what? Maybe I don't want to, because a fair amount of the actors playing Mod Gang members, they look like they phoned in their fucking performances. You know, and I'll say this. That one scene where like they really quickly in one episode try to strike up this rivalry between the Mod Gangers and the desert the Mos Espa or Mos Pesla or whatever, the fucking Freetown people. The Freetown people and the city people are supposed to have some sort of they're supposed to have some sort of desert rat, cities rat or whatever. I don't fucking care what they called each other. I don't care. It's so artificial. This was not set up. This is not set up properly. This should have been set up episodes ago. You needed more time for that kind of crap. It makes no sense for them to stop and do that. You know, and somebody, I think Boba has to say, save it for the Pikes. You're in the middle of a gunfight. Don't save it for the Pikes. Commence dispensing upon the Pikes. Fucking ridiculous. Well, they have this whole thing where they have a little rivalry going on, like where the city people don't like the desert people, and the desert people don't like the city people, and then they get over it to help each other snipe the droid totally ineffectively. That's so stupid. You know, so stupid, so stupid. Nothing got done. It's like we're just going through motions. And I don't know these people. I don't know them. I don't know this chick that came from Freetown. I barely know this stupid leader of the Mod Gang. We haven't spent any time with them. There have been no words, no soft moments, no quiet moments, no loud, like nothing about this is cool, because nothing about this makes any sense, because nothing about this has been done right. Nothing about this has been done right. This is so far below the storytelling I expect from Jon Favreau, from Dave Filoni, and from the writers that they usually work with, and from the process they put together. It's so bad. It's so off-kilter. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's happening. Oh, God. So little made sense. It's just like, I sit there and I watch the droid fighting with the Rancor. I'm like, shoot the droid! Like, I'm having those moments every couple of seconds. It's so uncomfortable. It's so terrible. You know, and I want to love Star Wars. I want to love it so badly. But they don't let me. They don't let me love it. You know, I mean, in The Mandalorian, we got to go to different places and see different things. In the Book of Boba Fett, we get that a little bit in episode 5 and 6, which are the best episodes by far of the entire show, by far, standing so far above all the other episodes around them that you can't even call them part of the same show. What is wrong with this? What is the point of this show? God, is the Obi-Wan Kenobi show gonna be like this? I'm off. I'm sorry. I feel like quitting Star Wars right now. Like, it's not as bad as when GW shits on front of the fans, but the thing is that it attacks the core. It attacks the heart of my fandom more than that, because GW doing bullshit and attacking the fans is one thing, but you can never blame the lore for that. But this, I mean, at the very least, GW opened the lore up so that everything and nothing is canon, which is a stupid but at least effective way of solving that issue pretty tightly. Here, it's like Disney is trying to supplant Legends lore with their own lore, and what are they giving us? God, it's so fucking terrible. I'm sorry, this is a rant. I am ranting at you right now because I feel so many bad emotions after having watched that show. You know, so many contrivances. The whole thing is chocked full of contrivances. Fennec Shand was everything that Boba Fett should have been. And he wasn't. And she was kept from being everything she should have been by Boba Fett. I feel like I have to cancel my Disney Plus subscription. I feel like I have to stop watching Star Wars because it makes me feel terrible. Because this was terrible. You know, even people who are like, oh, but what about the cameos? What about the cameos? Let me address the cameos real quick, if I can go ahead and do that. You know, the Mandalorian cameos, like the Weapons Master and Jon Favreau's character, the Vizsla. Why the weird, constant contradictions? Mandalorians never make weapons out of Beskar, except for the whistling birds. You wrote that. You wrote that in the last series. What the fuck? She made those. They're made out of Beskar. They're weapons. They can penetrate Beskar armor. What the fuck? But the spear is off limits? Whatever, fine. I mean, God, you could have melted the spear without making that rule. Now Mandalorians can have Beskar weapons except for when they have Beskar weapons. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. God. Doesn't make any sense. And then, loyalty and solidarity are at the core of the Mandalorian creed until a helmet comes off. Until your helmet comes off. And then the only recourse that you have is unavailable. Why did they make the Mandalorian stupid? Why did they make the Covenant stupid? Like, why did they do that? Like, you can see that this guy is one of your best Mandalorians. You've already sacrificed virtually the entire covert for this guy. You know that the Imperials destroyed those pools. Why is there no other way? You control this. This is not, like, while you may treat the creed religiously, it is not in and of itself a metaphysical religion. What about the pools made this work? Is it that getting down there is dangerous? And through that trial, you can purify yourself as a Mandalorian? Like, work with me here. Work with me here. Don't be ridiculous. Don't be retarded now. Fuck, man. It just makes me so angry to see those contradictions. You know, in the same episode, loyalty and solidarity at the core of being a Mandalorian. And then gone is the loyalty. Gone is the solidarity. Because Din Djarin removed his helmet to show Grogu his face. Which, now let me nitpick on that, unfortunately, because this series is of the kind of series that is so bad it actually goes backward and taints parts of the previous series in the Mandalorian. Because why did Din Djarin reveal his face to Grogu? Why did he do that? Why? He is 100% down with the Covert and the Creed. His face is not his face, according to him. That face does not exist. And it's not his face. The T-Visor is his face. The Mandalorian Way is his face.
Assembly underway.
It was one thing to have that be a gesture, but if that gesture is going to be that significant, it needs to have a significance to match it. And there simply isn't any. Yes, there was a significance to him removing his helmet when it came to the thought of retiring on a planet and like having children with this woman and living apart from the Mandalorian Way aside from defending this village forever. Yes, that was a big deal. That was different.
Standing by.
This is... What is this? I don't understand this. So, unfortunately, the Mandalorian cameos were tainted with that bullshit. With that Canon Ouroboros snake biting its own tail and eating itself bullshit. That doesn't make any sense. But let's move over to the Luke cameo. The Luke cameo felt subpar. Yes, I really liked the Luke cameo that we got at the very end of The Mandalorian. That felt right. That felt good because we've seen Luke be serious and we've seen him be a kick-ass and a badass. Okay, we've seen that. But what else is Luke?
Construction underway.
Luke is a goofball.
Construction underway.
Luke is lighthearted. You know, he's not Luke anymore. He's Grandmaster. He's not even Grandmaster Luke. He's just Grandmaster. I'm Grandmaster now. I'm always serious. I don't make any jokes. I don't laugh anymore. I don't chuckle anymore. And my lines are all spoken flat. And they sound like they're spoken by a fucking Luke robot. My inflections are all flat. And my meeting with Ahsoka Tano, who compares me to my fucking father who was Darth Vader, that moment means nothing. And it has no greater context. And God, it was just there for us and not for the plot. Which means that it might as well not have been there at all. The Ahsoka cameo felt unnecessary and unenlightening, and I am upset that we have wasted the Ahsoka-Luke meeting on this. It should have been so much more impactful, it should have been so much more meaningful, and it isn't. I mean, fuck, man. Fuck. You know, it's just weird. It's just dumb. It's just so unnecessary. It was there just to try to cheaply win us back with a cameo. I liked some parts of the Skywalker training session, but it was incomplete. It was incomplete. Where was Luke's personality? And also, this thing that Luke did, where he gave Grogu this ultimatum. Why would he do that? Oh my God. Why would he do that? People, please. It's like he spent weeks or months with the Mandalorian. He spent almost none of that time with you. You're putting him on a hard path to detachment. He is a baby, a child. And you're going to put him in control of a decision this big when so much of what a child is will push him in the other direction. It doesn't make any sense. And unfortunately, it unmakes the entire goal of The Mandalorian Season 2. So now The Mandalorian Season 2 almost might as well not have happened. This is all falling apart. What is this fucking mess? What is this fucking mess? It's just a total mess. A total mess. So no, the cameos were not as good and win you as many points as I wanted. You know, I love Cad Bane. He was here for a reason at least. At the end of the day, the Book of Boba Fett has failed. It has failed. There was a lot of quality in it. There was a lot of talent in it. But it was squandered by bad writing and plot holes so large you can jump a fucking X-Wing through them. Constantly, everywhere. It's like the warp has eaten parts of this dimension. And they're like, we're looking at the holes in the form of plot holes. I'm so pissed. I couldn't even finish the episode. I had to stop. At let me see, where did I stop? I'm sure I'd still have it up here somewhere. Hold on. Where did I stop? I stopped with 9 minutes, including the credits remaining. I stopped after Fennec Shand did the only satisfying thing in this entire goddamn episode and most of the show by going in and assassinating the head of the Pikes. Why was that not a thing that we were trying to do before now? Why was that a thing that Boba Fett sends her to do after they're all fucked? I am so fucking pissed. And guys, I can't make this canon. I mean, blasters are so weak. Blasters are so weak if I make this canon. This show is an unmitigated failure due to how bad the writing and the plot was and what happened at the end. In the same way that Game of Thrones was an unmitigated failure because of the last season, the Book of Boba Fett for this whole first season is an unmitigated failure. And I don't know how to recover it. And honestly, it might make me quit Star Wars because I don't know what I can do if I really can't look at Boba Fett anymore. I don't know. Because if Disney sees how big a fuck up this is and doesn't make the Book of Boba Fett Season 2 and somehow fix this, they'll just leave it. If they don't like it, if they see how big a failure this is, they'll just quit it here. And this will be the last we see of Boba Fett on the big screen, right? Like, we won't see him in a TV show anymore. And the problem is that if we leave it here, I think I might leave it here. If we leave this here, I might leave this here. I didn't think I'd be this angry. But God, I thought that we would get better. I thought we would get more. I had such a bias in favor of this show.
Defensive perimeter set. Confirmed.
There really isn't any more to say. I'm just sitting here screaming at a microphone at this point. Because I was let down so much. We all deserved better than this. Boba Fett deserved better than this. Star Wars deserved better than this. What happened? Dave Filoni is the fucking chosen one.
Guard order confirmed.
How did this happen? These plot holes are enormous. These contrivances are so loud. I don't get it. And the worst part is, this isn't even a comprehensive list. I'm sure there are more. I'm just so full of fuck right now that I can't think of any more and I don't want to think of any more. Fennec Shand did great. Can't wait to see more of her. Mandalorian did great. Can't wait to see more of him. But they're killing the rest of Star Wars. And I don't think I can take any more of it. There's so little to salvage out of this. If they leave it here, if this is where I have to put down Boba Fett, then I am done with Star Wars, I think. Disney Star Wars, at least. But, if they do continue and make Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett Season 2, I don't know that I'll watch it. They've put me in this weird position. Because I can't do this to myself again. I can't. I care too much about this series. I honestly think that the Book of Boba Fett has done more damage to Star Wars than the first season of Star Trek Discovery did to Star Trek. It maybe not by itself. It's in accumulation with the the sequels and where we know things are going to go, and the way it taints a former series by damaging The Mandalorian. But I really feel like I could skip Star Trek Discovery Season 1 and enjoy myself. It is definitely the lesser of all the Star Trek series I've seen, with the exception of maybe Voyager, because Voyager was way hit and miss with episodes. But I could still watch Star Trek Discovery, and you know what? I'm actually excited to see the season finale for Star Trek Discovery Season 4. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what this new species looks like. I want to know who's made this crazy black hole weapon. But I don't know. I don't want to watch more of this. And the worst part is that I think I'm a pretty good writer, and I can't think about how I can't contrive how I would fix what they've done to Boba Fett. He has to snap. He has to snap. But it will be so obvious. The course correction will be so obvious. No one will ever be able to look at season 1 of the Book of Boba Fett and not think this is good, and not think this is bad Star Wars. No one will ever look at it and think this is good Star Wars. Not anyone who's unbiased. Not anyone who liked old Star Wars. Hey, if you came on at the prequels and you like that, I mean, not the prequels, my bad. If you came on at the sequels, and you like that garbage, you know what? More power to you. I can't like that garbage. I liked episode 8, and then episode 9, and no, not episode 8. Episode 7. I liked episode 7. And then episode 8 and 9 threw the whole thing into the bin and lit it on fire, and it still hasn't gone out. This is nearly of that quality, if not of that quality, because God, the production value is so good, but the plot was so bad. And I just don't know what to do with it. I'm sorry for ranting at you guys so much. I'm so sorry. I'll be on Discord later on tonight, I think. I'll let you know. I'll put up a message there whether I am or am not going to be there for a minute to see if we can talk about it, to talk with you guys about it. Chew the fat, shoot the shit, whatever. But I have 9 minutes more to watch of the Book of Boba Fett, and I don't even think that I can watch that. And God, just such a bad thing to have happened by a person that I thought would save us from this. I just don't know. I don't know. I have to find out more. But Disney is such a tight-lipped company. You never hear about their dysfunction unless it's really bad. You have to get leaks from it. You know, people are, like, entire careers are killed and canceled because of one bad word and Disney deciding they don't like that person and blacklisting them. So they have such an incredibly powerful way of shutting down criticism and making sure that all their bad news stays inside, even as they show it all on the screen. I want with all my heart to believe that somebody fucked this up for Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and that this wasn't them. Because the writing for this show was... There's no other word for it. It's fucking heresy. And with that, I think I'll have to turn it off. I'm going to go drink some water and lie down because this has been a trial. Do not watch The Mandalorian Season 1. If you must, then just watch Episode 5 and Episode 6. There are things in there you might enjoy. But honestly, I'm probably canceling my Disney Plus subscription from this. This hurt me. In my heart. In my Star Wars heart. And you know what it is? It's that it was done with the names of people I trusted. I never trusted Rian Johnson. I never trusted Kathleen Kennedy. But I trusted Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. And this hits me. This cuts me. This cuts me deep. I'll see you guys on Monday. Until next time.